All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you will know, every Saturday we try to make it a point to give you the rundown of the goings on in entertainment. Just giving you a quick recap, if you will, because we know that you're busy out there. So we try to do our best to kind of collect all the, awesome things that are happening, in entertainment and pop culture, if you will. And of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about some of these said topics. It is my pleasure to welcome onto the show my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Spillman Trueheart. What's going on, sir?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? So happy to see you. We're so happy to see you guys. Um,
Absolutely.
First and foremost, condolences to my Knicks fans. I'm sorry, guys. I was there with you. I was in the town last week to see y'all fumble that ball, but you fought through all the injuries. We're proud to see what you guys did. But let's get started on these topics, Brandon.
Let us get started indeed. And we're going to start first by, unfortunately starting on a slight, sad note in that we had a filmmaker, Morgan Spurlock, who passed away this past week, over the course of this week. And he passed away at the age of 53 due to complications with cancer. Now, if you guys recognize the name, of course you recognize him as a filmmaker of Super Size Me, and in terms of other films that he's done, he also did a Comic Con film as well called Comic Con for A Quest for Hope. Many of his films, many of his docs, had a always asked fascinating or intriguing questions, but always had like a sense of I guess you could say of topics that were pressing, but sometimes they still had some lightweight fun to them. So Spillman, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet, Spurlock, or if you've seen, some of these said films. Of course, Super Size Me is iconic, especially in terms of the how it reshaped how McDonald's approached their menus. We'll put it that way. So, what are your thoughts, man?
I think it's a little bit bigger than how McDonald's shape their menus. I feel like without Supersize Me, a lot because a lot of the fast food chains are not doing what they used to,
Yes.
um, and I feel like that's very indicative of what the changes that Morgan Spurlock put, and then obviously when the pandemic happened, that killed a lot of supply chain stuff. But it's pretty crazy for RIP, shout out to his family. We're really sad to see that. But you know, Apple Slice is coming to Happy Meal now because of Morgan Spurlock. I think that's a little bit better. It's like, all right, sure, we're gonna get the kids French fries and hamburgers with no vegetables or whatever, but a few apple slices that is a whole food. So, I can get down with Morgan Spurlock. Again, sorry, Morgan. What else do you have to think about, Mr. Spurlock?
I mean, just in general, just that idea that to considering that it was his first feature film. I understand, that's quite a debut to have it as your feature film, and to be able, whenever you're directing anything, as someone who has directed stuff, uh you always want to have your work have an impact across the board. I mean, yeah, it's fun for it to do good business, right? Do good business, if you will, and to be profitable, but also even outside of that, on an artistic level, you want it to also have an impact um on the masses, on some in some capacity, and that's definitely something that happened with that particular work of his. And to be able to have that legacy of something that not only forced people to reevaluate how we eat and how we consume, our food, and how that impacts us, and to still have that legacy going forward, where it forever changed how we have, the food industry and how they approach what they promote and what they have available to consumers is, huge. really huge. Also, even on another note, I've been fortunate enough I've to have met Spurlock a couple of times. On one occasion, and this was during San Diego Comic Con, they were promoting the release of the Comic Con doc that I had mentioned before that was had already passed its theatrical release and was being released on like Blu-ray, DVD, and things like that. And in that interaction and going to the screening of that same said film, uh, he was always someone who was very gracious, very nice. And even in speaking with other people, they've always had the same interaction. So it's great to also have that because so oftentimes, and I shouldn't say so oftentimes, sometimes, there are examples where, you have this perception of how, someone will be, that you look up to in terms of their work. And sometimes I'll be honest, sometimes it could be a little disappointing of examples where the person may not be as gracious or they may not be as as you perceive them to be, as nice or as welcoming. And I'm sure there are a multitude of reasons for that. Of course, maybe within that moment, maybe they are, just having, a horrible day or something have transpired. You never know. So maybe you're just catching them on the wrong day. But that was never the case in the interactions that I had with Spurlock the few times that I have had an opportunity to meet him. So again, rest in peace. And yeah, crazy to pass away in this day and age at 53. That's young in lieu of what we have available medically for anyone to pass away at 53. So again, rest in peace to filmmaker Morgan Spurlock. All right, so switching gears and getting into sports, there are a couple of things that went down this week. I want to be able to dive into a couple of stories, and I have them broken down here. So we have the NCAA and the Power Five conferences agreeing to, pay their athletes, which I want to dive into a little bit in terms of like the specifics of it, because I know prior there had already been word that that was going to be something that happened in terms of like likenesses and things of that nature. But I also wanted to get into where we stand with the NBA playoffs right now. I feel like we should have like the phrase "then there was four" because we are here in the conference finals. We only have four teams left, and so far it has been an intriguing display with in both cases. I feel, regardless of what the series leads are, they've still been intriguing matchups. Of course, we also have the firing of JB Bickerstaff of the Cavs, which plays off of what we have with the NBA playoffs, and I feel like is a casualty, if you will, of the NBA playoffs. And then, of course, also the All NBA team selections, which has big implications because for those of you that are not well versed with the NBA, we have some major implications in terms of how players are going to be compensated financially
That dollar bills,
insane,
y'all.
record extensions that a lot of our players are going to be receiving because of these all NBA selections. So, Spillman, I'll put it over to you. Whichever one you want to dive into first, we can hit.
Well, let's start with I mean, let's do them in order to how they are on the screen
All right,
for
cool.
continuity service
Sure.
purposes. So,
So,
in the Power Five conferences, excuse
let's,
me,
yeah,
excuse me, ladies and gentlemen,
yeah, no problem.
it's pollen season. It is
It,
pollen season.
it
It's
absolutely is.
pollen season. So JV, the ins. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is terrible. This is terrible.
You're good.
But the Power Five conferences playing their players, they've been owing these people some money for a very long time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be serious. I feel like I kind of understood before the conferences had their own networks and other entities where they're having contracts with TV providers to play the games, had an argument that this is kind of amateur. But once they started playing the games on TV, they've been stealing from the athletes, and it's good that they're finally paying them. I understand why someone would say, "Oh, if we're paying the players, then they're going to go only to one school." But they already only go to one school, so they might as well get paid to go to the school instead of, some kind of valor that we've set up. How do you feel about that, Brandon?
I mean, there are a lot of components to it. So, first, what I'll do is I'll share some of the details that they go into, and this is a hat tip to NPR, in terms of breaking it down in terms of some of the things that one can expect that's going to come with this agreement. So, I'm gonna scroll up a little bit because I'm gonna get into the two parts of it. But yeah, as I said, you have the NCAA and the five power athletic conferences, and they do get into specifics of those five conferences. So you have the Atlantic Coast Conference, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the Southern Conference, that are among those five that were mentioned. And in terms of the actual agreement in and of itself, as it says here in the article, there are two parts. First it goes into the idea that 2.75 billion, that's billion with a B, folks,
Big
will be
dogs.
distributed to athletes who competed before July 2021. So when the NCAA first allowed athletes to earn money from their name, image, and likeness rights. So we're not even just talking about instances where they are going to be paying their players uh 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 currently, but also paying their players uh from prior to 2021, which is huge. So you still have, because it always is a bummer, right, whenever you have instances like this where like agreements are made in certain cases, and like there isn't, you kind of feel left out, that man, I wish I was able to take advantage of that said new policy that is beneficial to everyone. I think a good example of that is, I know we talked about on the show, and I can't remember the school name, so forgive me, but it was a medical school, if I recall, where they just had implemented, they said they were going to be implementing this coming school year of actually having those who are attending the school having their tuitions paid for. So it's
Hmm.
not going to be, something where if you get enrolled, if you get accepted to that school, you're going to have your tuition paid. It's not, you're not going to have to deal with that. And that's kind of a bummer. While it's great to have that, it's also a bummer for those that before that, new policy that's going to be put into place, weren't able to take advantage of. So, I wanted to be able to highlight that. Um, and the fact that, second, I'll mark this as well, it will create a future revenue sharing model for schools to be able to distribute around 20 million per year directly to athletes. But just it while all those things are good, and it automatically comes to mind, I'm sure a lot of you are asking this, it asks a lot of questions too, which we also have in this article. Which athletes will be compensated? How much will they make? Will women be paid equally? Things like that. There's still a lot of questions. While it is great to have this here, it still raises a lot of questions as to, how that's going to be handled. I will say this though, if we're talking about colleges in general, this is a good, you know, PR thing, because now you have another means to be able to attract athletes who otherwise wouldn't be coming to play in your conference. Outside of these five, I'm guessing that these five are going to be way more attractive to D1 potential athletes that want to be able to actually generate revenue and make an income while they're in school. I mean, that's priceless. So many college students, when we're in college, right, we're broke. Like, yeah, we have jobs, right, but you know it's still, money is still tight. So to be able to make a living wage, and again, we still don't know the specifics of it. They're still ironing that out. That's invaluable, especially if you're talking about a lot of players that they don't come from the best circumstances, and even while they may have a full ride to the school, you know it still would be something that would be helpful and life changing for them to be able to start making a living with the very thing that the school is making billions of dollars off of them on. So uh yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I guess the only other, part of that I'm thinking about, outside of the fact that it is uh that it will be a tool that can be used to attract players. On the other side of it, um or I should say, another thing that I would say that it will be helpful for colleges is, and I don't think a lot of people are giving a lot of credit to this, it will affect a lot of professional drafts. If we're talking about NFL and we're talking about NBA, we're not going to see. I think we're going to see a diminishing. Not to say that it still won't happen, but we'll see a diminishing of that first year one and done. Because think about it, it's far more attractive to say I can be one and done and immediately start getting paid versus knowing that I'll be able to have an income and be able to generate revenue right off the bat as a freshman. So for some of those players that are kind of mid tier, and we know that it may not be a circumstance, it might be a stretch for them to be one and done. It may convince them, based on how they're sharing the revenue, of course, of potentially staying an extra year. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what your thoughts are before we move on to NBA business.
I just feel like I just did the numbers on my phone real fast while you were talking.
Okay.
20 million. Average football team is like 84 people in college, right? So if you take 84 people and divide 20 million, that's just a football team. That's only $238,000. That's just, that's money. Sure.
And it's taxable income.
Sure. So it's going to be far less than that. And that's just for a football team of that $20 million. And we're saying, okay, they're probably gonna have to pay other people because Title IXs and things like that. So let's just say it's gonna be 100. That's what we can say it is. That's $100,000. If you were making $100,000 and I told you could go make millions in the NFL or NBA, you would take that at any second. So I feel like it's more money that's due for the services rendered.
I understand what you're saying. This is what I'm saying. If you're talking about a player, if we're talking about like Bronny James, for example, I'm just giving it as an example, or any other player who, isn't guaranteed to make the first round, and it's guaranteed that you can make that six figures while you're building up your, your
skills
chips to be able to be at a first round prospect. I'm sorry. College player, it's maybe your first real job outside of kind of like a part-time job that you had in high school, and you making six figures, and you in college. You don't got no other thing going other than just playing, and you in school, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna be in the first round, and you can potentially keep making your six figures until you're at that point where you know that you can make that leap and make seven figures in the first round, versus taking the chance and not even making it into the first round and going into the second round and not even having a guaranteed contract. I don't know, bro. I would take that six figures.
You bet on yourself. You have to bet on yourself, ladies and gentlemen.
He was a little silent over there. I don't know. I would take that.
Because I feel like you're talking about a tweener, and I'm talking about one and dones, and I feel like one and dones are going to be one and dones, just because if you're a one and done, you probably could have gone from high school to the NBA. So you had to go for just 1 year. You had to go for the year because that's what the rule says. If there wasn't that rule, you would go like a Kobe or a LeBron. So to me, that's just like if I could be making millions of dollars and I have to make thousands of dollars, I'm losing money. I'm losing money and I'm making bubbles on the screen.
I see that, right. I don't know, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. I just feel like it's a good way to convince players not to rush the process and to be able to continue to develop their game while still being able to make a decent living. So, I
We'll see.
mean, don't get me wrong. You have those weird instances where you have like big time players where you know they're going to be one and done. They're going to be a first round
There was
draft.
going to be a first. There was going to be a top 5 without this college season. Yes.
But I'm saying those that are maybe first round, late first round, or early second round is
Okay. Yeah, but
guaranteed.
yeah.
We still don't know what the distribution is going to be, how they're going to divvy that up. It may be more than what we're thinking. So we'll see. But anyway, getting into the NBA of it all, we do have the NBA happening currently right now. We have 4 teams that are in play right now. And we also have, of course, the firing of Cavs head coach JB Bickerstaff and our NBA All NBA 2024 team selection. So Spillman, what are your thoughts, sir, on what is going on right now in the NBA currently?
I feel like they. We're gonna start with the Cavs because that's a quick hitter.
Yes.
LeBron don't play there no more. What was they expecting that team to do? I don't understand what they was doing. Love Jared Allen and the rest of those other big men because I feel like the Cavs are just point guards and centers. I don't feel like they have any forwards on that team. So
But they
it's.
also weren't healthy. So I feel
Yeah,
like
I
it's
mean,
time to
again,
just like
yeah.
the Knicks. Like I feel
I
like if they
guess.
were healthier, then they would have progressed further in terms of their
But I
playoff.
feel like roster construction is another thing, though. I feel like sure they weren't healthy, but like 2 small guards and then a bunch of centers, back to the back centers. I don't know anybody. Like I don't know a slasher on that team. You can't tell me who the slasher is. It's not like they got a premier forward. Like
Mitchell is your slasher.
I mean, he's a guard slasher. I'm talking about like a wing slasher. He's a ball in the hand kind of guy. Like he scored like did he score 70 this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I just don't I don't get why that's JB's fault. Like he scored 70 in a meaningless game in like October sometime or November. And then he didn't show up in the playoffs. I feel like that's not on JB. I like Donovan Mitchell, but
Again, he wasn't playing at 100%, which is why I feel like, and I mean, even then, under those
at
circumstances,
100%, I don't feel like he's a championship. I feel like this is the question: is Donovan Mitchell's their best player, right?
I mean, outside of what is it, Garland?
Garland's not better than Donovan Mitchell. Um, Donovan Mitchell is their best player. If Donovan Mitchell is not the best player on a championship team, he's not. He's just not going to be. He could be the second best player on a championship team, probably a third best player, for sure a third, probably maybe a second, but he can't be the best player on a championship team. So to me, I feel like that sucks for JB. I feel like he was a good coach, but it is what it is. Somebody got to take the blame. Do you want to do the playoffs next, or do you want to move into NBA selections?
No. We can get into the playoffs next because, as I said, there are some interesting matchups that we have going currently right now. I mean, you have just as you see in the picture here, we have the Celtics and the Pacers, and we have the Mavs and the T Wolves. Of course, the T Wolves, dethroning last year's champs, the Nuggets, and going far further than I feel like anyone really anticipated that they would go. But I feel like right now they're coming up on a test right now.
Is it
know. I'm just saying, I don't think it's that.
Clock.
I don't think it's that. I know you feel like it's over, but
It's over,
I've
ladies
seen
and
it
gentlemen.
happen. No, I've seen it happen where they're able to make the adjustment and to be able to come back. And I feel like, and we talked about this offline, I feel like it's more so a lot of those situations, and we see it a lot of times even with players too, where you have those players that have incredible years, they have these breakout years, right? And the after that, people start getting the word out on the player or that team, and folks start making adjustments and they stop sleeping on that player and they stop sleeping on that team. So I feel like that's what we're seeing right now. But now that the adjustment has been made, I still feel like the T Wolves can come out of this. And the only reason why I also say that is because of the player that you have there with Anthony Edwards, who has been, outstanding this entire playoffs. And just like I was telling you last week, is he has that team believing. Like a lot of times, you have a player that just um extends beyond the team, and they just have this unbreakable confidence where it's contagious, when you're around that, and to be able to, instill that said confidence in, your other teammates as well. And I feel like he's continued to do that. But yeah, no, I still feel like there is, a chance for the T Wolves to pull it out of this. But I will say too, I'm not shocked what I'm seeing with the Mavs, uh, because they, demonstrated time again, of how resilient they are. However, the only other reason why I bring up the situation with the T Wolves is also due to the fact that, unlike some of the other series that we've been seeing, these haven't been blowout wins. Like these have been drag out battles, like every single one, and it could have gone either way in either game, in game one or game two. Neither one of them were like absolute blowouts. They were drag out bouts. So I know you feel that it's over, but they said the same thing about the Nuggets too, and we ended up getting a 7-game series. I do believe that this is going to go down to the wire though. So I say I don't
Do
even.
you know? Do you know in the history of the NBA, if you down 2-0 in the conference finals, you don't win the series?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I understand all of that. I understand what history says, but time and time again, the T Wolves have been changing history and been changing the narrative. So I don't go by that no more.
Well,
Because a lot
I
of
would
people will.
I understand that, but I feel like the Timberwolves have turned into the Timberwolves of last year, and they weren't playing like the Timberwolves of this year. They were playing like that against the Nuggets. I feel like the Nuggets are a beast, but a beast that they can handle.
I still
I
say
don't feel like I don't
go
hold on.
for it. Go
Let me do my
go
thing. Let me say my
go.
piece. But I feel like the problem that the Timberwolves have is they've tried to make money with a veteran backup point guard as their starting point guard. Like I feel like because Luca is the ball handler, he is 6'8", so that means that because Edwards has to guard Kyrie, he said he has to guard Kyrie, which I think is a mistake.
Okay, that's what I wanted
I
to get
think
into.
that's a mistake. I think
That's
that's a
what I wanted to
mistake.
get into. Yeah.
And I don't think that they can make that change now because whoever you put him on, the other guy's going to get off. And they don't have no answer for it. They don't have like all their good players, all their other good players are big men. So either Kyrie, because Kyrie's numbers in this last game, in the first game, he had 30. And Luca had 30. So that's 60 points from them. Getting 60 points out of the guards is not how the Minnesota Timberwolves want to play the game. They want those guards to get 40 points, maybe 50. 50 or less, that's good for them. But because the basis of their defense is really on the front court. They're not a back court heavy team as far as I'm concerned. So to me, and then last night in game 2, what did Kyrie do? Kyrie had this time it wasn't even Kyrie, it was Luca. They did a little bit better, but they still let him get 50 on them. To me, they don't have anybody that could guard both of them. So because they can't guard both of them, and honestly, they're out rebounding the Timberwolves, and that is a crying shame. That's a crying shame to be out rebounding them by 6 whole rebounds. It's 40 to 46 on average. So that means that they're not collecting those boards, even though they got all those big men out there, cat out there, short arm and stuff. It's over. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. I just don't. Like Cat is both of those guys are good, but they're not athletic like the bigs are for the Mavs. And the style of game that they're playing right now is just completely different than how the Timberwolves want to play. If they was playing like, I feel like if these was like 90, 95 games, like the point total was in that range, they'd be good. But the games are like 110, and that's too many points for the Timberwolves to keep up to me.
So here's how I feel about it. Is I do agree with you that I feel like the X factor is going to be the Kyrie and Anthony Edwards matchup. I absolutely agree with that. I love that Anthony Edwards, which a lot of people have said, I love that he is taking the challenge to take on Kyrie Irving. But at the same time, while it's great to take on the challenge, it doesn't mean that you need to take on that challenge alone. I feel like with Kyrie defensively, that they need to throw a lot of looks at him. And I feel like actually I would put Anthony Edwards on Luka Doncic, and I would actually do switches on Luka Doncic. So that way you are attacking Luka Doncic, because if you're attacking Luka Doncic and you're getting him in foul trouble, then that's going to disrupt, your entire offensive game, because he is a facilitator through and through. And if you're allowing him to get into his bag and do all the stuff that he's able to do, then I feel like that's a problem that gets you in trouble. So if you can disrupt that at him as a facilitator, and just if Kyrie goes off, Kyrie goes off. But if you allow Luka to be frustrated and to get him out of his game, then I feel like that would be a recipe to be able to beat the Mavs. Because on top of that, too, you also have a matchup problem with Cat as well, and I don't feel like they're taking advantage of that enough.
I feel like Cat's not taking advantage of it enough. That's Cat. That's not on the team. And again, you're saying switch. This is the problem, though. If they put the other guard on Kyrie, Kyrie's going to eat that other guard alive. Mike Conley will get 40 that night. That will be a terrible idea offensively.
Would you rather Kyrie get 40, or would you rather have Luka get 40 and 15 assists and 11 rebounds?
It's closer with Luka getting the 15, honestly.
I would rather have Kyrie go off than to have Luka just get in his bag and just get a 40-point triple-double.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He's had 30 the last 2 games.
Recipe. Cat, as you said, he needs to be more aggressive, because
Definitely.
That is a matchup problem. Because I can't think of anyone on the front court who can really match up with him.
There's not anyone. That's why it's an indictment, and why I think this series is over. The fact that Cat is letting them out rebound them by 6 rebounds is crazy. That's crazy to me.
Okay, so that's the first issue. And then, like I said, the second issue, they need to throw a lot of looks at Kyrie. If he goes off, he goes off. But I'm saying offensively, when the T-Wolves are on offense, they need to ensure that there is a matchup of Luka checking Anthony Edwards.
But
Like,
that's the rub though. That's the rub though. Like the guards for the Timberwolves are not as good as the guards for the Mavs. So you're really only saying Anthony Edwards needs to get them to foul him, and they're not fouling him because Anthony Edwards only is getting 20 a game, and they're not about to let him get all these 40-point games. He's not about to do that to them.
Luka. They need to go at Luka and make him play D.
He won't play D. He doesn't have to. He's got big men behind him. PJ Washington. PJ Washington became a father in a shady situation. And now he's playing like a man. He's playing like a father.
But I'm saying Anthony Edwards, he doesn't need to be a slasher. He has a mid-range game too. I'm saying you need to wear Luka down. I'm telling you, like that is the way that they need to go. They need.
I don't think. Also, we're not talking about it, but Anthony Edwards doesn't look like he did during the regular season. He don't look like he did in the first 2 rounds. He looks a little
That's
hurt.
because he's running around trying to chase Kyrie Irving. Of course, he's not going to look the same. That's why he doesn't look the same, because he's chasing around Kyrie Irving. If he wasn't chasing around Kyrie Irving, he would look like Anthony Edwards.
No,
They
this is
need
how he
to
looks right now.
sometimes you need to help the other. You have to help the younger player to take the ego out the situation and to do what's good for the team. And like I said, up to this point, it has worked in his favor of having that amount of confidence. But at the same time, experience.
He wasn't playing nobody. Jamal Murray, that man might make the Hall of Fame without ever making the All-Star team. That ain't nobody. Who they played in the first round? I don't even remember who they played in the first round.
Right. People be on Murray. Murray is not a scrub.
He's not an all-star either, ladies and gentlemen.
Should be.
That will take us into, I guess, the other. Let's go to the Eastern Conference.
I love the assists. I love the assist. Look at the assist there.
This is the
assist.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
I love the kick out.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. This series is 2-0 going back to Indiana, and unlike this other series where Brandon thinks that something can happen, we know this one's over. It's over.
Okay.
It's over. Right. Again, the Pacers have a problem. Their big man collects Legos. You can't collect Legos and be a tough guy. I'm putting my foot down, but toxically. But yeah, no, it's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. They don't even have Porzingis in there winning all these games. So I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I mean, with Indiana, like I still feel like you can never count Halliburton out. There have been so many times where people have already, counted him out of the equation, and he's proven them wrong. I know even in the Knicks matchup, there were a lot of times where folks were already calling it and saying, okay, the Knicks have this series. And he, again, was able to change that narrative and to demonstrate, why he was one of the top guards this season in terms of his skill set of, just like with Luka Doncic, just being an overall facilitator with his team, whether it's with scoring, whether it's with, distributing the ball and running the offense. Like, he has been invaluable to them. So while I do feel that the Celtics match up really well with them, I still feel like Halliburton is an X factor overall, and anything is possible, I feel, with him in terms of what we've seen from him so far. So I wouldn't put anything past him of what he's capable of doing in this series.
I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like Halliburton is great, but I feel like the Celtics were built to beat this team, even without Porzingis. They don't need Porzingis to beat this team. Like, get yourself together, big fella. Get ready for the
Now let me ask you a little trick question. Would the Celtics need Porzingis for the T-Wolves?
No, they wouldn't need Porzingis for the T-Wolves either. No, they wouldn't. They would not, because the Celtics have that roster construction that the T-Wolves could not beat.
See what I did there?
They wouldn't. No, because those guys aren't good either. No, it would be the same story. We'd be like, wow, Al Horford looks like he's got the fountain of youth. He must be going over to LeBron's house and sleeping in the hyperbaric time chamber and getting strong.
Cat would fry Horford.
No, he wouldn't, because he'd be out there shooting them ugly jumpers that he always shoots instead of dunking on people like he should.
No, that's Horford. Horford's been shooting more.
Horford's shot goes in. You've never heard nobody say that Horford had a busted J, because it's never been true.
Wow. So we're saying that Cat is not as good as Horford.
He's not.
Wow, you heard that here, ladies and gentlemen.
He's not. How is Cat better than Al Horford?
Wow.
How is Cat better? I'll tell you how Cat is better than Al Horford, because Al Horford cannot grow that much hair, and he's not as tall as Cat. But other than that, he does all the things that Cat purportedly does better than Cat does.
I'm saying laterally, he doesn't have the same athleticism that Cat has.
I haven't seen that athleticism from Cat.
I'll give you this, that Horford is a good, set shooter. But in terms of being able to move laterally, from side to side and be shifty, Cat has that more so than Horford. If you guys agree with me, I know I have folks that agree with me out there. You can let me know in the comments.
Maybe this year they do because Al Horford's an old man. But Al Horford is a
Now,
certified Hall of Famer. Let's be real there. Don't disrespect Al Horford and say he's not a
I
Hall of
got
Famer.
tripping, bro.
Huh?
Tripping.
How am I
Spillman.
tripping that Al Horford's a Hall of Famer?
No. I'm saying he's a Hall of Famer, but you cannot tell me that even when he wasn't a veteran, even when he wasn't on the other end of his career, he was not as quick laterally than
I
Cat.
would dare say Cat can jump higher than Al Horford, but he can never move back and forth better because this is why. We know that Cat is a defensive liability. That's why they had to go and get Rudy Gobert. They never got a Rudy Gobert for Al Horford because Al Horford's a real one. Don't you put no disrespect on his name.
I'm not. Shout out to his college career. Shout out to his NBA career thus far. But again, different players. He's an outstanding set shooter, but when it comes to being able to
Al
move
Horford never
laterally,
played with anyone. I mean, I guess he is now with Jason Tatum and them.
handle the
I don't
ball is
know.
a big. Sorry.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. He can handle the ball better than Cat can.
No. Sorry. No. But
I
we'll
just I
agree.
just feel
We'll
like,
agree.
ladies and gentlemen,
We'll
he's not really being real right now because Cat is
we'll
good.
agree.
I get Cat is good, but he's not as good as Al Horford. But this
We'll
team
agree.
is
You can
the
let us know in the
Timberwolves.
comments.
The Timberwolves are not going to make it to the finals anyway, so we're not going to see it happen because the Celtics are, and they're just going to beat this team. It's terrible,
But with that
terrible.
said, I feel like that's a great segue into the All NBA team selection. So, Spillman, I'm gonna try to see if I can pull it up for us. But what are your thoughts on the selections that we did have this year?
Well, I did notice that two Lakers made it on the All NBA team this year. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Boop, boop, we doing that thing, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Just like Kendrick Lamar, we came back and it just they not like us, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how many Warriors made it onto the All NBA team this year. Maybe Steph made the third team. Did Steph make the third team?
He made. Well, I'm trying to remember what teams did your Lakers make? I
They
was
made
just curious.
Anthony Davis made the second team, and LeBron made
Okay.
the third. And LeBron made
Oh,
the
okay.
third.
Okay. I was just checking. I was just seeing if we were just having like selective history here. But
Oh no! I knew they didn't make the first team because we got kicked out of the first round. We barely made the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. We barely made the playoffs. We fired our coach.
I love what to say. I love the objectivity. I'm gonna put it
We
up here
fired our
again.
coach. It's fine.
Y'all did. Y'all did when the coach wasn't the problem. But we'll say that for another day.
Okay,
Uh
yeah.
so placing it up here, this is on NBA a website. Just to guys give you a rundown. We'll start, from the bottom up, if you will. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. So starting from the bottom up, we have the All NBA third team. We have Devin Booker of the Suns, Steph Curry, of course, of the Warriors, Tyrese Halliburton, who we were just talking about a moment ago, of the Pacers, LeBron James, Flop, aka Mr. Flopster of the
Oh, do we
Lakers.
have to do that? We had to do that, ladies and gentlemen. You see that pettiness? Terrible. Terrible. But you still only had the one all NBA player, so that's fine with me.
Yeah, yeah,
Get your
yeah.
little shines. Get your little shines.
And he's my number two all time. I'm not going front. He's my number two all time, even though he flops a lot.
Oh wow.
And Sabonis, of course, of the Sacramento Kings. Dad was also awesome as well. So it is in the genes, of course, that he, is just as talented as Pops was. Now looking at the NBA second team, we have Jalen Brunson, who of course had an incredible year this year, breakout year this year. And I say breakout in that, we saw glimpses of how talented and how capable he was, but I feel like he really took he took a step forward and put the Knicks on his back this year. Of course, we have Anthony Sweatsuit Davis and
Sweatsuit Davis. That's on the back of that sweatsuit it says All NBA second team. That's what it says on the back of the sweatsuit.
my bad, Anthony Street Clothes Davis. My bad.
Oh man.
We have KD, of course, of the Suns. Anthony Edwards, who has yet to go Super Saiyan against the Mavs, and of course Kawhi Leonard of the I'm about to say NBA Clippers, LA Clippers, y'all. I'm tripping. Now the first team, of course, we have the Greek Freak of the Bucks. We have Luka Doncic of the Mavs. We have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Thunder, Nikola Jokic of the Nuggets, and Jason Tatum of the Celtics. So, do you feel like they're, in terms of the teams that we have here, or from team 3 or say third team up to first team spills, that are there any players that you believe shouldn't have made it to the third team and maybe another player should have taken that slot? Or do you feel like there are any players that are a step below the team that they should have been a part of?
Not to beat a dead horse, but I feel like Jamal Murray is not there, and I don't feel like he's better than anybody that's on that team.
So let's see. So we have Halliburton, yeah, we have Booker. I don't know. I will put, in terms of, if I'm being objective about this year, I would take Booker out.
Booker and put Murray in.
Yep. If we're just,
I'm
not
so.
saying
I think Booker played way more games this year too. I think Booker played way more games this year.
But I'm saying, if I'm basing it just off of this year, just this season, I'm not saying
this season. I'm saying this season.
Murray should be in the place of Booker.
Booker had that crazy scoring game too, right?
I mean, but that it was at the beginning of the season. But like, just as he has done the last 3-4 years, he
fizzled in the playoffs, sure. But Jamal choked in the playoffs this year too. He got so mad he threw a heat pad on the thing. Like, he was actually the reason why they was in the playoffs like they are, and he knows they're not. That's my point.
But I feel
that's my point.
Times, in terms of that 1-2 punch that the Nuggets have, that is a very underrated duo that they have with Murray and with Joker. Very underrated. I feel like
it's because of Murray. It's not because of Joker. Everybody says Joker's great.
I just feel like so much attention is paid to Joker that people kind of sleep on Murray, and sometimes Murray like punishes people because they sleeping on him.
We only saw that 1 year ever.
I don't know.
We only saw 1 year ever, ladies and gentlemen.
But or otherwise, do you feel like everything here, matches up pretty well in terms of where folks stand?
I would have liked to see, I'm a big Wemby fan. I feel like the year he had was so amazing that you can't not put him on the team, but I don't see who you take off for him. Like, I get that his season was good, but the team was so bad. Like, if his team was better, he would definitely have made the team. But because they only won 21 games or whatever, you can't put a guy on the All NBA if you win 21 games. Like, I understand that. But that he had a crazy year. To come in the league, average 21, 11, and 3 in your first year is crazy, and basically play every game. He basically played every game. So
I'm gonna say something real controversial. I wouldn't have had Greek Freak as first team this year. I would have had him on second team.
Who will go up to first team? Anthony Davis?
No. It would have been Ant, actually.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I would have had him in first team, and I would have had Greek Freak, because even the Wolves have been playing out of their minds even in the regular season in terms of where people anticipated they would be and where they actually were at the entire regular season. So, like, the Bucks were not playing, at the level that they, that folks anticipated they would. And I mean, I think part of that too is due to the trade for Damian Lillard. But I think also too is if we're really picturing like durability with Ant versus Greek Freak. Greek Freak was injured this year, and I feel like you need to be able to provide that credit to that player that's durable and is playing more games like we were talking about before. And what they were able to do within those additional games that they did play. So, um, but for a lot of you, maybe you think that that's like blasphemous. I don't think so. I think it's
I
still.
think
I
that's
think
pretty
it's
blasphemous. I don't think that Anthony Edwards was good this year, but he wasn't first team good. Like he was good, but he was not first team good. I agree. He got maybe if you could include the first 2 rounds, I could see him being the first team, but he wasn't playing like he was the first 2 rounds most of the regular season. Like he was dunking on people and stuff. Yes, he was doing that, but I don't feel like. Again, he's got 2 other guys. He's got 2 other play. Like he's got the defensive player of the year on his team, and he's got another great guy on his team. And Dame Lillard's great, but Dame really didn't play this year. Giannis was carrying that team. So
Yeah. And I
I
mean,
don't know.
the other part of this too is, and I didn't want to get into. I want to be able to get to our last story. Is there are financial implications in terms of like record financial implications in terms of what players are up to get
Oh,
for
Tatum! If they would have chipped this year, Tatum gonna get half a B, ladies and gentlemen.
But I mean, even already, Luka Doncic, is set to have a record, contract extension
Can you
based on.
imagine getting that much money and you live in Texas? Oh my God!
I just can't fathom getting that amount of money. Just period. Like, what do you do with like, you're making what 85 million a year. I think that might be a possibility, or 70 million a year. Can you just imagine that? Just within a given year. It's just mind-boggling in terms of like where we're thinking where players are being paid. If I'm talking about like the Jordan heyday, like even then, I want to say what Jordan was getting paid like what 30+ million dollars, but now we're talking about players that I'm sorry, while they are all talented, they're not Michael Jordan, and they're getting paid twice that amount a year.
But
So
you got to remember,
it's all
they
relative.
probably getting twice the amount of eyes on them that Michael did.
That's true. Thanks to
Because
Michael.
because of Michael, they can go to that next level. So, it is what it is.
Exactly.
It is what
All
it
right.
is.
So, moving on to our final story, I wanted to be able to get into. Well, actually, we'll move on to our next story of getting into a streaming, related story. And I only say streaming because it is tied to a streaming project, but this is in regards to, and I apologize if I'm butchering it, but Takaru Kobayashi is retiring from competitive eating. He is a winning competitor when it's come to competitive eating. However, he is retiring, and he has, stated, reasons for it, where it's been really fascinating of him talking about how it has affected um, his eating patterns and even just the nature or his relationship with food, which is understandable. So, Spillman, you hear this because it is tied, and I'll pull up the story regarding the project, the streaming project that goes into his career, recent one that actually you can check out now. But what are your thoughts on this news of him finally retiring?
I feel like Kobayashi's the one that took competitive eating to the next level because he was a star, but an enigmatic star because Kobayashi obviously is not from the States. He's
Yeah,
Japanese.
yeah,
And so he would just come here and people would be eating like 20 hot dogs and Kobayashi would eat 45 hot dogs. And
right,
he would
right,
just destroy people. Like he
right,
took the numbers. Like he took the numbers to the next level. Like Joey Chestnut obviously came back and he took it back for America. And we love you, Kobayashi, especially on this Memorial Day. But to me, Kobayashi is the reason why the hot dog eating contest even is a thing. Like really, I didn't know. I know that the hot dog eating contest is like a July 4th thing, but I feel like it was a New York City kind of a thing. Like it wasn't a thing where it was like, we're gonna put this on TV. But like when Kobayashi came around, now I watch it every the 4th of July. Do you watch the hot dog eating contest? Are you a glizzy goblin, as they say?
I don't. I've always seen it, after the fact, after, everything has been decided. I don't know. It's just something about, and don't get me wrong, I love, I'm a foodie myself and I love food, but I don't know. It's just the idea of just being that gluttonous. I don't know, always makes me like sick to my stomach. Like it makes me like not want to eat food. A lot of times watching a lot of these contests. So, but the name of the project, because I said I did want to get into it, and it's currently on Netflix now, is Hack Your Health: The Secrets of Your Gut. But I wanted to get into the details, if you will, of some of the health concerns that Kobayashi got into. So I'm gonna try to see if I can pull it up real quick from that story, because he goes into some of the things that you don't really think about, because who else is doing competitive eating, and winning multiple years and training to be able to prepare your body to withstand that type of punishment whenever you're doing contests like these. But going into the documentary, and this is shout out to what was broken down in the article from Fox 5, so shout out to them. But it said that Kobe revealed his struggles, because it says that it's also in the documentary. I haven't had a chance to see it, but I plan on checking it out. It's in my queue. He revealed that he struggles to eat and enjoy food after his 20-year career, and because of it, because of what he's had to deal with in putting his body through that type of punishment, um, he never feels hungry or full, and sometimes goes days and days without eating and realizing that he hasn't eaten. It's also allowed him to train his body, which is crazy. It has helped him to train his body to ignore signals like feeling full, as well as his sense of smell. So, one of the great things to enjoy about, being able to eat food is to be able to smell the food, right? Like that's one of the cool things about food, of being able to enjoy the smell of the food that you're eating. And it's become so severe in terms of what he has done to his body over the years and doing these contests, that he's affected actual senses that he has, and has affected him having disorders when it comes to food, like him being able to actually know when he's full, and sometimes to not even eat for for periods of time on end, which is kind of scary. Like it is not something that you want to perceive as doing, where like you're not eating for a period of time because you've disoriented your body in such a way that it doesn't know, okay, I'm hungry now, okay, I'm full now. That's wild.
Yeah, that's understandable. But again, the man ate in a way that I'm sure that his body has problems. Like the way that he was eating, like
Yeah,
it makes
yeah.
sense. It's like, of course. It's like when you find out that kid from college who used to like face off bottles of illicit substances, and you'd be like, "Oh, you mean to tell me he got sick later on?" Wow, who would have known?
Really, you don't say.
What? His liver's bad.
No way.
No way. So yeah.
So, but yeah, as I said, that doc is currently on Netflix now. So you guys can check it out now. Like I said, I'm planning on checking it out, but I want to be able to dive into the story, because there's a lot to unpack with what we have with the film and TV stuff. A lot of trailers, a lot of trailers. So we had Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F trailer. new trailer hitting. We had a new Beetlejuice trailer. We had some news regarding the return of the Dark Passenger, if you will, for Dexter of our prequel series, Dexter Original Sin, which will follow some of those earlier years for Dexter. And then also we had, the Deadpool and Wolverine ticket sales, which, had record sales. I know, shocking, very shocking.
What? Wolverine? Blue and
Wolverine
yellow
for those,
spandex?
right? So Spillman, a lot to unpack here. We had a couple of trailers that dropped. We had some news regarding, a prequel series that do we really need the prequel series? And then also we had the news with Deadpool. Talk to me. What are your thoughts?
Um, let's start with the first one. That I feel like these trailers of these movies that we're making. I know that this movie is for people like me. I understand because you almost caught me with this one, Netflix. You almost caught me. I was like, they playing the song. Got the song right. It was like I was
Right, right. I know you're going with this, but go ahead. I think we have the same
Okay,
idea. But go
okay,
ahead.
okay. They recklessly flying a helicopter. Oh, that looks cool. And that
Right.
looks like a real helicopter. That
Yeah,
does look like they. It looks like they flying that joint real bad. It's like, ooh, it don't look like a CGI helicopter.
All right.
They start like punching the music up a little bit more, and it was like, oh no, it is Axel Foley.
Right.
So I'm a little bit excited about that one, but I also know that the last movie came out, like the people that were born, like they went down the list in the movie. Like I don't know why they did this, but they told you when the last four movies were. It was like this one came out in 1984, this one came out in 1987, and then in 1994, which was clearly like a that was too long. Like if you win a championship 84 and then 87, then you win one in 94. They're like, oh, good job on that 1994 championship. We didn't think you still had it in you, but here you are again in 2024. What are you doing out here? You're not supposed to be out here anymore. So to me, it's kind of crazy. I don't know what they're gonna do with it. It looks interesting. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
So I've said this time and time again, and I'll probably be blue in the face, and I'll probably say it a couple more times. Is when we're talking about sequels, right? I feel like there is a cutoff, and people have heard me talk about it on here before. I feel like there is a cutoff when it comes to sequels and how much time passes that you should have between one installment and the next installment. And it has been forever since we have had a new Beverly Hills Cop. Don't get me wrong, like I'm happy that we are getting a new one, but I still feel like it's kind of little too late. Like there are a lot of things with this franchise that are very much of the 80s. Like if we're talking about like just there are a lot of franchises that are just a thing of its time. Like the Beverly Hills Cop movies like are very much of those 80s and 90s in terms of like what you have with action comedies, with what you have with buddy comedies, because a lot of people kind of sleep on the fact that Beverly Hills Cop is a buddy comedy. Like, yeah, it has Axel Foley in it, but his two sidekicks, with the Beverly Hill cops, like it's a buddy cop movie also. People sleep on that fact. So and it's among the best. It's among the best, arguably the best. I know a lot of people will probably put Lethal Weapon in there, but I personally I like Beverly Hills Cop better than Lethal Weapon, and I love Lethal Weapon. But
No, I feel like okay. I'm gonna let you speak your piece, but you're wrong there. No, I'm just gonna tell you.
I'm just saying, no, I like Beverly Hills Cop, and
Mhm.
I'll even put a dark Trojan horse in there. I'll put a dark horse in there. People sleep on this one. People don't talk about it enough. I like Tango and Cash too. Growing up. I used to watch Tango and Cash all the time. Like that. That was a fun movie just based on that dynamic that you have with Russell and with Stallone and what they did there. But yeah, like I, I don't know if they're going to be able to recapture what made what has made the franchise great. I feel like if they were going to do a third installment, they should have done it long before. What was it, 1994? I think that was the year that
Way
we were.
before
Should have
'94.
done it
Yeah.
long before 1994, and we should have already had a part four before 2024. So The fact that we have it coming on Netflix, I feel like tells us everything that we need to know. And the fact that you have a studio that's not confident enough to have it get released in theaters and we're having it on Netflix because giving you an
Netflix,
example.
low key, Netflix needs to stop doing this because they cheapen their brand with these kind of stunts.
Yeah, because I'm gonna say, like, I'll give you an example where you have a film that, and this is a recent example actually, where you have a film that was actually going to come on streaming, and then over the course of doing the film, it was pushed to actually be a theatrical release. This upcoming Alien film, Romulus, was supposed to be a streaming release. It wasn't supposed to be a theatrical release, but by virtue of studios seeing, what is it, Fede Alvarez was doing with this current installment and how good it looked. They were like, you know what, this is actually good enough to be a theatrical release. Let's switch it over to theatrical release instead of our original plan. You want to have something like that versus, it being a situation where you had the intention of it being a streaming release and it remains a streaming release and not getting the nod to be what is it, a theatrical release. Because I know even at one time, if I recall, and I could be wrong about this, I'm pretty sure this was the case, is that at one point the most recent Bad Boys installment, not the one that's coming but the one that came before, at one point was going to be a streaming release because they weren't sure of how it would perform with recent Will Smith movies not really doing well. And of course, I'm saying this is before the Oscar situation. Even before the Oscar situation, a lot of his movies weren't doing that great because I want to say during that time you had a couple of those releases that he had with Jaden that didn't pan out the way that he thought it would, and then you had some other releases even following that didn't kill at the box office like folks anticipated it would. And then even beyond that, if we're talking about Martin Lawrence too, he hadn't had that many hits as of recently either. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. In terms of Beetlejuice, however, while I am skeptical in the same way of what was of the separation of time that we had between one film and another, I do feel like in situations like this, when we're talking about Beetlejuice I feel is more of a concept than it is of its time. Like you as long as it captures that idea of the afterlife, then I feel like you could still do a really good Beetlejuice movie versus something that has elements that are very much of an era. Like with Beverly Hills Cop, a lot of those things, the what the characters are wearing, a lot of the things that make them, iconic are of that time. And so like I just hope that Beverly Hills Cop versus talking about Beetlejuice isn't going to be any of those situations of okay, like I'm of this time, or I'm a fish out of water because like I have this new school villain that I'm going up against, or I'm going up against technology, but I'm not really about technology because I'm
It's
from
going to be the exact same way. It's going to be the exact same way for both movies.
I hope it's not that because I'm gonna
It's
be
going to be
irritated.
that way.
And I have a feeling that it is going to be that.
That's all they're
So,
selling anymore. Nostalgia.
so, and like I said,
Ozymandias.
so before we get into the Dexter prequel, how do you feel about the Beetlejuice one?
I liked it. I'm interested again, Beetlejuice. But again, it's for people my age. I get it. They want to capture our imagination. But both of these properties, no one asked for. No one asked for this.
I don't know. I feel like Beetlejuice was one that a lot of people asked for.
I
Outside of Batman, a lot of people ask about a sequel to Beetlejuice. I do recall that. Like people would
well,
ask about Beetlejuice. When are we going to get another Beetlejuice?
I just maybe you like to hang
Talking
out
about
at the Hot Topic. I don't hang out at the Hot Topic. Okay, I don't know what those people are into. I don't know what they do. But the rest of us in society, we were not asking for a Beetlejuice thing. Like It just wasn't a thing. No one was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait for Tim Burton to come back around with another Beetlejuice."
Well, I'm saying if I remember and if I recall,
This is
how
this is a
if we're, if
conspiracy,
we're,
ladies and
if
gentlemen.
we're talking about Michael Keaton properties, and you guys can let me know in the comments too. Out of all the things that Michael Keaton has done,
Mm-mm.
question that he gets asked all the time: when are you going to play Batman again? Which he did. He checked that off. And also, when are we going to get another Beetlejuice? And the only reason why I also say Beetlejuice is because in the nature of what we have with streaming, in the nature of what we had with VHS, like Beetlejuice has had an incredible like shelf life in terms of generation after generation watching this film, especially with the song that they have like at the front and center of their trailer. The Ayo, we say Ayo. People like love that song from that film and that moment from that film. So I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree when it comes to that. But in getting into the prequel for Dexter Original Sin, I don't recall. Did you watch the original series? I think you said you did.
I watched a bit of it. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I will watch a show, but I will also not watch a show. Like I'll watch it, and then once it there's I don't know what it is with myself, but I get to the point with the show when they start having me say, "Well, why are we doing this?" Then I stop watching the show. Like once I say, "Why are we doing this?" With many things, like I watched that show with the Gallagher's, and it was like the fifth or
Oh,
sixth season.
Shameless. Shameless.
Shameless. Yeah, by the fifth season, I was like, how are these people not in prison? How are they not in prison? They've been flirting with all kinds of menacing, but that's beside the point.
But
But
when you're
I was a
looking at,
Dexter fan.
I was gonna say when you're looking at the show though, it's crazy on how many people have gone on to do other amazing things that
They've done
when they.
crazy things.
But
Well,
go ahead.
sure,
I'm
I get
sorry.
it. I get it. Yeah. But I like the Dexter thing. Again, no new ideas. No one had.
Oh, okay, we lost Spillman there for a second. We'll give him a second to come back. But while we're waiting for him to come back, just to guys give you guys just a brief rundown of the series. So the upcoming series, as I mentioned before, is going to be a prequel series, and this is an article out of Deadline. As I said, called Dexter Original Sin. We do have a couple of um, announcements in terms of the actors. So you're going to have Patrick Gibson playing a younger Dexter, Christian Slater also playing Papa Morgan, and Molly Brown playing sister. Let me see if I have Spellman back. I think I do. Give me a second, folks. Hold on. I have you on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, Spills.
There you go.
All right,
Hi,
so
ladies
we
and
have
gentlemen.
him back. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have him back. So just a slight technical difficulty there, but I was just going over like some of the casting additions. So I'm gonna turn off what we have here. You guys can see it here on the bottom left there. But in terms of what we have for the casting, of course, Michael C. Hall was iconic as the titular character Dexter, running for 8 seasons on Showtime. However, with the characters that we have now, we have Patrick Gibson, gentleman there who is playing a younger Dexter Morgan. We have Christian Slater, who will be playing his dad, Harry Morgan, and Molly Brown, who will be playing, of course, Dexter's younger sister, Deborah Morgan. Of course, if you guys are not aware, I'll do a slight spoiler here in that they aren't, biologically, brother and sister, but more in terms of how they were raised, because we do have some interesting implications that happen, of course, later on in their life, due to that fact that they are, not biologically related. However, in terms of the series itself, and this is again in an article out of Deadline. The show is going to follow Dexter in 1991 Miami, as Dexter is a student transitioning into a serial killer in training, which is what the plot detail describes it as. And when his urges, going back to that concept of the dark passenger that he references a lot throughout the series, can no longer be ignored. He finds solace and understanding in Harry. With Harry being his only confidant, he teaches Dexter a code that's designed to help him find and get rid of people who are committing crimes, all while avoiding getting caught by law enforcement himself. So it's going to be taking place while he is, since they said he's in school, likely studying to be a blood spatter specialist. Because if we recall, that was the designation and the job that he had when he was on the when he was a part of the Miami Police Department. So it will be interesting to see if we have any callbacks with any characters, like some of the other characters that um, maybe Morgan's dad worked with, that do appear on the show later, that Dexter eventually works with, that are a part of the police department, because a lot of those characters are older than Dexter, to see if they have younger versions of them as well. Or, depending on how long the season runs, if we, come to learn about some of those characters that actually end up coming up with Dexter or going to school with him. But what are your thoughts on them coming back with this prequel series that I don't really feel like they need, but it would be interesting to do if it's done right.
Yeah, I'm okay on this. It's it's another show based on something that's not something anyone asked for. No one asked for this. No one
I,
asked for this.
no one did. No one
No
did.
one no one was like, "Oh man, I want to see when Dexter was younger." But we need to understand why a man would kill serial killers.
Well, here's my thing. I was gonna say, if we're talking about prequels, right, and we're talking about, if we're talking about a show like this, it's always a level of suspense, and there was always that suspense of, okay, would Dexter get found out? Like, would he get caught? And of course, spoiler, he does eventually by the end. But even with him getting quote unquote caught, and however way you want to determine that is in the original series, and then how they continue that in the sequel series. Yes, there is a sequel series with him and his son, grown up son. Um, how would that play out in the prequel series if we know that he has to join the Miami Police Department? Like, there's no
There's
way,
no there's
because
no suspense. Yes.
we know he's gonna make it out of it. It doesn't matter how suspenseful it gets. We know he's going to make it out of it. We know the dad is going to make it out of it because he doesn't die until later. We know the sister is going to make it out of it because she doesn't. Nothing happens to her.
All these people are in the show later. We already know it's going to be okay.
So we know they're going to be okay. So like that was one of the things, the ongoing things that made it fascinating was, oh, is he gonna get caught this episode? Oh, he's gonna get caught this episode. And he came very close, like razor thin close in a lot of cases. And we know that's not going to be the case with this series because it's taking place before the original series, which we know a lot of these characters have already survived and made it. So we'll see. We'll see. So lastly, of course, we had Dexter. We had Deadpool and Wolverine have his tickets sell this over the course of this week, and they had record breaking sales. Not shocking, which a lot of people are attributing to potentially having, or likely having, I should say, a non-figure opening weekend. Do the math. But Spillman, what are your thoughts on something that is not that surprising that many of us are looking forward to?
Oh, it's all celebration over here. It's all celebration over here, ladies and gentlemen. We're so happy. We're so happy about Deadpool and Wolverine. That's what I like. I like it. We're all happy. Everything's good. We're sending out love, ladies and gentlemen. We're sending out love. That's right. We love Deadpool and Wolverine. They're gonna be chopping each other's arms off. Well, Wolverine's gonna be chopping off Deadpool's arms, and Deadpool's gonna be like, "Why you chop my arm off?" Oh, it's gonna be so classic. I'm so excited about this. Deadpool and Wolverine are properties that make money. They're money makers. The things people ask for this movie. This is what we're asking for. We're asking for this kind of stuff. We want to see the mutants and the X-Men characters in the MCU. We've been asking for this. This is what we've been asking for. They should have did Kang. They should have brought the X-Men in. It's not even worried about Jonathan Majors because Kang is good, but I feel like they were just trying to make more money on toys. And just like they said on Spaceballs, merchandising, ladies and gentlemen. But Wolverine and Deadpool, like this is where you don't let the corporate stuff get in the way. Because if they let the corporate stuff get in the way, they would let Wolverine stay in the Sony box and they just wouldn't connect the two boxes because it costs too
20th
much
century.
money.
20th century.
21st century. Okay, I'm sorry. The Fox box.
But they bought it.
They did.
I would say the one thing to your point that of staying out the way, if you will, is not censoring Deadpool. What makes Deadpool is him swearing like a sailor and saying a whole bunch of like crazy crass things. Like that's what makes Deadpool Deadpool. And if you take that away, you're in essence taking away what makes Deadpool Deadpool. So, kudos to Disney for allowing Deadpool to be what it is, to be an R-rated film, to have all the humor, well, most of the humor. They make a joke about it in the trailer of one of the things that they can't talk about at all or reference at all. But mine is that, which is a nice wink that they included. What they couldn't really dive into in the trailer. It seems like outside of that, everything else is fair game. So, I'm very interested to see, what we have. There's so many things to be excited about. Just having another Deadpool, exciting. To have Hugh Jackman back, exciting, especially after this point where we never thought we would ever see Hugh Jackman in an MCU movie. To have Wolverine in his classic costume, exciting. To have a multiverse film where we don't know what characters are going to pop up in the film. We may have any of the X-Men characters pop up. It's fair game. From any of the X-Men movies, we already know some are going to pop up because we already saw it in the promotional material to a degree, and we talked about it. So, I'll put the link in there. There are a couple in there that you can, make out. But I'm sure they're holding a couple of other surprises in there of other X-Men characters. I'm sure they're holding some other surprises of superheroes that are not even in X-Men movies. Shall I say Daredevil? Shall I say Fantastic Four? Shall I say any of these other 20th century 20th century studio superheroes that may pop up in here because all of them are fair game, every single one of them. So
I'm so excited.
or even just the regular MCU, like just
even the regular MCU. Yeah,
just the regular MCU, even characters that may have died. So like because they're a variant, like it's so many possibilities. Now, with that said, I feel like it can run the danger of ballooning into being too crazy, but I'm still excited at the prospect of what we might get.
yeah.
So, but yeah, any last thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Just that they're printing money. I'm excited about this Deadpool Wolverine thing. I do want to say, even though this is off topic for everything that we were talking about today,
Yeah,
I'm sad about TNT losing the NBA because that may
indeed.
not even be a TV channel no more if they lose the NBA. So we'll see. But
Fingers crossed.
you know,
Fingers crossed that they're
yeah,
able to still get something
yeah.
going with that. So,
But I doubt it's going to happen. So, oh
yeah,
well.
yeah. Well, all right, that's gonna do it for this week in pop culture. Thank you guys so much for watching. And before we wrap up here, I'm gonna put it over to you, Spillman. Can you tell folks where they can find you, sir?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You can find me on Instagram at Truly Spill. That's where you can find me there all the time. Just have a good weekend this Memorial Day weekend. If you need Uber and Lyft, they will find you literally anywhere. You don't have the same excuses we used to for taxi. So Don't drink and drive, ladies and gentlemen, and take care of each other.
All right, awesome. As always, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me, as you can see right there, at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and also Brandon Choi underscore ENT on IG. Um, just a couple of reminders. Just know that we are, as I mentioned to you in a little bit of a house cleaning video over on our other page, that we do have a a Patreon that you guys can take advantage of. I'm gonna try to do a better job of getting some stuff up there. We do have some first time views of certain films that I have in the works, so I'll keep you posted, and we're gonna have some cool guests with those. And we have some upcoming shows, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon, guys. Peace.